Hello and welcome to a new mod pack that I'm only going to be doing one episode for. This is FTB Sky Odyssey. It's quite an old pack, but it was a good one. This map was the middle, so you start off with one of these stone transmutation tablets and a tome of knowledge, which, as you can see, unlocks all transmutation knowledge when learned. It is, however, only worth 1 EMC, so then you have the question of how to get more MC, and the answer is you can grab each of the 4 draconic armor pieces for 1 EMC each, and they will give you quest completions under this chapter that give you coins, and then you can use coins to buy things. Or you can grab a piece of dirt, and this is a bit of an exploit that they didn't bother fixing. You can craft it into the Akashic Tome, and the Akashic Tome, you can do things like select the draconic thing, and then you could just burn this immediately for 8,200, or you could hold shift and press Q to eject it from the Akashic Tome and burn all of the books inside of the Akashic Tome for MC. So then you can start building with whatever EMCable materials you like, and it becomes a bit easier actually than most of the other maps. But anyways, Seth didn't want to play this pack with me, so I just did a full of the middle playthrough. So I started off with this dirt part. I got into chicken breeding immediately. I built this machine from Nonsanity on YouTube. That is the video code at the bottom there. That will basically, well, you put 2 chickens in here, and then it breeds them, and a transfer node puts the offspring into this drawer. And then when there are 2 of them in there, the redstone upgrade turns off. I mean, turns on, turns this torch off. This block breaker breaks the entire chicken breeder, and then this item collector picks it up and stores it into here. And then an item, a filtered slim, that filtered slim transfer node. Sorry, that filtered slim transfer node puts seeds back into it. What happens with the chicken breeder is that it gets pulled out of the bottom of the crate by this filter and then put into this block placer. And there's a torch under it because it needs power to operate. And that's basically it. So I use that to breed up. Well, these are the 111 stat chickens. These are all my 10-10-10 stats. And so I use those to finish all of these quests. And then, honestly, I should have started on this earlier. This is the #1 way to grow crops with the middle map. The Harvest Goddess Band. It will greatly accelerate the growth of any plant, including mystical agriculture, and then break them to harvest, which does mean that you can't use a plant sower, or a plant interactor to harvest them, but those don't work on the mystical agriculture plants anyways. So under the farm, this is what's picking all of that up when I do that, and it just routes things back into the farm. This plant sower is what replants things. Currently, I have it growing void metal and Inverium tier 6 and canola seeds. But what I actually did next was I built a small 5x5 cursed earth mob farm here, but I eventually moved it over to here. This is now the mob farm. It is 15 by 15 on the inside, I believe. It needs 3 fans with some upgrades each in order to push everyone. apparently there's still a bridge guy around that I didn't know about. But anyways, so yeah, and those guys can drop loot crates. Um, so they're all being funneled into this mob measure, which has sharpness, looting, and beheading upgrades. And then the way that there's a loot crate now. And most of them have junk. So, anyways, I ended up building this so I can turn off the mob measure and also manually kill things when I want to. But anyways, the drops are then picked up by this boy. And the XP also. And he ejects items in all directions. Into the EMC link, which took a while to get. I initially just stored items in alchemical chests. Into the loot crate opener, which automatically opens things and then waits for you to pull the items out of it. And into this drawer thing for non-EMC items from drops. Cinnabar is only here because of chickens that made it. And I also have a crafter handling Withering Souls and Inferior Essence here. The experience is ejected into this experience obelisk. And for added stuff, you'll want some XP chickens making these solid experience, and then just throw those on the ground near where the absorption hopper will pick them up, and it'll add a lot more XP to the experience hoppers. It's still nowhere near enough for the final quest, but still. Anyways, I used that to get my XP production going, and then I built these collectors. Like this one, except not compressed. And I put them on basic EMC links until I could afford flowers. And then I started building these instead. And then once you get up to like a stack of these fading ones, you'll finally be able to afford a final power, or you'll finally be able to afford some of these, and you'll just build a power flower out of those in world around a basic energy link. And then when you have a full one, you break it down and you can make some of these final power flower bonsai pots. And then you place a bunch of those, and eventually you'll be able to afford a final star. Which it looks like I cannot at the moment. So let's place. Let's put that will away. This is my automated will farm, which I'll show off later. It was not at all necessary for the pack. I just felt like it. Anyways, so after that, I started working on this thing for no real reason. Oh, actually, during that, I set up extra utilities, and one of the early quest rewards thought so. One of the early quest rewards. Well, no, actually, you can just request an angel ring because they're receivable out of the tablet, and then you have flights. So, why do I have a loot crate opener? Quest pins. Okay. Next thing I did was go to the Nether, because there's a chest there with a few items, and yeah, you'll need to go to the Nether eventually, anyways. Then I built this monstrosity, which creates plastic from feathers in here. Well, it creates feather fibers, and then those are smelted into plastic. And then those are stored in here, but also sent to the lucky egg machine, which by now will have a lot of it. And then that produces lucky eggs, which are sent to this mechanical user. And then the opened items stay inside the user, so they'll pulled out into here to either become eggs or into the EMC link, or if they don't have any EMC value, they end up in here, which is how I got a bunch of rockets. All in all, that was completely pointless because rockets are literally the only item that you can get there that don't have any EMC value. So it was a very pointless thing to do on the minnow map, but whatever. Let's see, the next thing I did was probably build this coke oven. I automated it a lot later though, and build this, and didn't get many animals at first, but now I have an entire farm of naturally spawned animals. Then I built down a bit. No. I think then I started on Thaumcraft. Yeah, that makes sense with the placement of all these things. And I did the research as normal, but I got stuck eventually at these guys, the Crimson Cult and Crimson Rights. So I pivoted over to, but I did build this, and then I pivoted over to finally having a refined storage system. I debated for a while whether I wanted refined storage or AE2, but I decided on refined storage because I can build this monstrosity. This is my, basically my crafting multi-structure for refined storage. It is a max size crafting thingy for refined storage, and inside there, it's basically half CPUs and half blocks that store like 36 patterns each. So I have a shitload of pattern storage in here, and I only ever used like this many patterns. But yeah, that definitely made things easier. And then once you get refined EMC links, you can also put storage buses on them, and then anything that you can get from EMC, you can provide to this system automatically that way. The settings for those is actually a bit complicated. You'll want to, any additional ones that you put, you'll want to make extract only. And the first one, you'll want insert extract on a blacklist, and you'll want to blacklist enchanted books, most importantly, draconic armor probably, ender tanks, because I accidentally deleted a few that way, empty cells from Tech Reborn, soul vials, and maybe an enhanced building guide if you use that. So that will mean, but then you'll want to boost its priority above your disk drive so that the disk drive only contains non-EMC-able items, and you can see here that I only used a single 64K storage disk throughout my entire playthrough. I forgot to mention at the start, but yeah, you can get coins and you can spend them, but the only thing that I ever spent them on was a few of these starter eggs that you can't really get otherwise. And then I also made a few bad purchases that I didn't end up using at all, in the form of oh, you also do have to buy a drop of evil to get your cursed earth farm started. That is one thing I bought. But then I didn't buy much else besides a few creative items that I didn't end up using. One thing I will buy now, though, that I can, is this, so that I can finally access it from anywhere in the world. Because it doesn't have a great refined storage, unlike A2 doesn't actually have any dimensional upgrades for its wireless transmitter. So you have to buy that from the shop in order to wirelessly do the thing. And the only coins that I ever got besides the ones for completing these normal quests were, I accidentally accepted this once after I got to creative items. So that's skipping a bit far ahead. After Thaumcraft, I built most of this stuff. And then I started on yeah, that was when I started environmental tech. I built this laser because you are going to need it eventually for some quests to mine crystals. The system that you'll probably want is just put an EMC link directly on the controller and then pull items out of it using Andrea conduits. Tell them to go priority 1 back into the EMC link in case they were EMCable, but otherwise go into here, and then you'll get a bunch of these crystals that you can't EMC that you need to upgrade this thing. And then I also, for the hell of it, built the solar because it wanted me to build a solar array. And I hooked that up to the Flux network power. Next, I started on Woot, I think, because I wanted creative items, because I saw that for the TARDIS, it's like 1954 of these machine casings. Which are each an awakened core, which are kind of time intensive to make. I did make a stack of them automatically. Before any of that, I think I did build most of these machines, though. I upgraded to draconic fusion crafting injectors myself. But anyways, this does work. It's got one injector for each of these groups of, or sorry, one flux point for each of these groups of crafting injectors. And there's 6 of them for a total of 28. And then they're all connected 2 or 1 at a time to a single item laser network. which originates from this item interface with a crafter on it right there. I did do a bit of a bad because apparently refined storage won't exactly obey the priorities. You want this to be the highest priority, so the first item in the recipe should go in here, and then set the priorities on these other ones so they kind of rotate. Although you don't have to. And then I worked a long time on trying to figure out how to auto flush the system, and eventually I made a processor, and the programmer is over here. This is the first time I'd ever used it. It just, every tick, or every 10 ticks, checks for items to the east. If there aren't any, it'll clear the redstone below it. And end the process there. Sorry. It checks, it compares that to 0, and if it's less than, then it grabs the number of items to the north of it and sets the redstone to that. North of the programmer is this way. So it's the input item network. This thing. You can actually check for items in, well, comparators don't work on it. Inventory checkers from RF Tools do, but they only check a single slot, which is why I had to use the processor. But anyways, yeah. It then ends up setting the redstone below it, which goes through this conduit, to the number of input items still in it. Because if there's any input items still in it and nothing is happening, then it's still working on a craft. Otherwise, it grabs the number of input items. I mean, yeah, if the east thing, which is the output item network, has any items, which is only connected to, well, it's actually disconnected at the moment somehow. I think. Yeah. That should be connected to this one. So if there's any items in this hopper, then the program will then this will pass and it'll go on to here, which means a craft finished, which means we want to pull all of the input items out if there are any, which is useful for the case of like upgrade keys. So if there are any, this will pass, and and it goes into a loop where we just fetch things. I mean, fetch a random item from that network, put it into the processor, and then just print the number of items that we transferred and from inputs, and then eval count items external on that again until there are no items in it. Then it moves on to the output network, does the same thing, and then finally clears the redstone at the bottom to allow the crafter to insert more items. It's on redstone signal locked auto crafting. And prints done. The redstone conduit passes the signal to this redstone lamp just for output. I mean, just for visual purposes, and the crafter. We'll see that work one time in this video. Anyways, I also built this for biodiesel and refined fuel for these liquid quests. Not those, these. And that's when I added canola to the farm and actually made this farm, and then made this array of fermenting barrels. These canola I did make infinite once I had creative, but you could just put an EMCable near infinite capacity onto a barrel, and then if you're making enough canola, it would eventually turn infinite by itself, apparently. So that's neat. And then I have a bunch of circuitry to uh, you know, do the canola stuff. Uh, we've got a atomic reconstructor, which gets sent. No, it doesn't get sent to anything. Sorry. Um, it's just powered by that power line above it. Uh, a lot of the refined canola from these fermenting barrels goes first to this fluid placer, and then to this task screen. Uh, the right. So we're making canola seeds from EMC, and then sending them to the precision dropper, probably with a flat transfer node. I don't quite remember. And then the precision dropper is on redstone mode deactivation, which means that when there's anything on here, oh, and so is the reconstructor, I think. No, the reconstructor is on pulse. So when anything puts, when the dropper puts an item there, it triggers the pressure plate, activates that, it gets lasered, and then it gets picked up by this item collector, which is filtered to only grab those, and it puts them into here. And then I have an inventory checker, and when we have 32 of them, we send through this conduit a signal to the dropper to stop dropping them. And then we have one of these. So the refined canola oil goes in here, and then the crystallized canola seeds go into here. So then the scanner detects refined canola oil, outputs a signal, which is knotted from the scanner to deactivate the dropper when there's no liquid. So when there is liquid, it'll allow, the redstone signal to this turns off. It drops a canola seed into it, transforming the liquid, which this detects, and then the same deactivation thing applies. You don't want to stand too close to it. Applies to this thing, which will grab the crystallized oil, I want to say. Anyways, that'll go into here. Oh, sorry, that was just what had stuff in it. It'll go into here, and then that whole process repeats, but with these. These are from the EMC link creating canola seeds, supplying all of these display stands, and then also out of this dropper, some crystallized canola seeds go into here, and then they get extracted directly into this dropper for the empowered canola seeds. And then that same process is how we make this empowered oil, which I first made the quest for, and then this is the repeatable. Anyways, that's the point at which I decided I needed infinite items for the TARDIS there. So I started on Woot. I made a few withers, programmed a shard for it, and then re-rolled many, many times until I got it to sample a game over crate out in its first 500 kills. These are a rare boss drop, 1 in 3,221, which is why it's kind of hard to get it in the first 500 that Woot will do. If you don't get it, you have to do Woot Flush, and then Minecraft Wither, or just Flush all. But I won't do that because it would ruin my metric. And then once you get it, you'll have a 1% chance from Withers of the game over crit instead of the abysmally low number. And then you just boost this, and eventually, so the first, you'll probably get a few creative barrel ones. First, I would recommend using those on a Wither Skeleton Skull barrel first, because Wither Skeleton Skulls are not EMCable in the pack, and then Soul Sand is. So then that'll allow this to run constantly. I originally got Wither Skeletons, by the way, by going to the Nether, finding another fortress with a golden eye, which apparently just finds any structure nearby, and it's crafted from EMCable materials. You want to heal its durability. I just used a rare talisman for that. And then you go to the Nether and throw it, and it'll go in the direction of the nearest stronghold. You'll probably want a magnet to pick it back up because most of the Nether is nothingness. And then eventually you'll find another fortress with actual blocks and blaze spawners where you can learn some blazes or get your starting Wither skeleton heads. I also soul vialed a Wither and then put it into here. This, sorry, it's really hard to, there, that powered spawner from Ender.io, and I keep it deactivated most of the time because it is power hungry with all of the upgrades that I've given it. It's on the frequency name mob. Redstone set to redstone signal turn off, which is how I got initially enough skulls to run the wither thing, and then I opened enough of these, of the game over crits, to get the creative barrel upgrade, which is by far the worst of the creative vending upgrades because it can't be used to duplicate itself. You can't slap it onto a barrel that contains itself or a crate. So it can't be used to duplicate those crates, and it can't be used to duplicate itself. So I had to wait for a rarer vending upgrade. Sorry, it's not actually rare, I just got a lot more of these than these for some reason. Once I finally got one of those, I was able to duplicate it with the creative barrel upgrade, as you can see here, to get infinite items. And the first thing I infinited was, of course, the game over crate. And then I opened a bunch more of those until I got a creative conversion kit, which is by far the most valuable thing in here, other than maybe the flux sponge and the fusion crafting injectors that I used that I replaced into this setup. And I put that here. And then with creative conversion kits, you can finally get creative liquids, which I didn't abuse too much. But anyways, while I was waiting for all that, I also built the blood magic setup on top of Woot. Because I planned on using this ritual here to supply it with blood, but it turns out to not be fast enough, so I eventually just made a creative tank of blood and used a bunch of displacement runes to get them in there. So now this is basically full speed, and then I made another identical altar right above it just to refuel my network. Uh, and then by the time all of that was done, I had creative fluids, and I finally moved on to Britannia. I built all of this, just a lot of endo flames and this simple uh, pressure plate deactivates hopper, which fuels which sends items to open crate from EMC link. It seems like Mobius fuel is probably the highest value item that you can send to these without any loss, because they only support like 4 times a block of coal's fuel value. And then first I made one of these because Terra Steel is actually really easy to get in this pack. I never actually made a Terra Steel agglomeration plate because of the middle map just teaching it to me, but Elementium is not like that. So I had to build this portal, which only turned off graphically, and then I remote connected it to my refined storage to automate all of these. They just go through the open crate and they get pulled by this vacuum chest. You could also use an absorption hopper, no, a vacuum hopper, but it has to be one of the ones that actually pulls items through the world, so that when they go out of the open crate, they get pulled through the portal. They literally fly this way through the portal, and then this is filtered to pick up only the input items and the output items from that process and send them back into the refined storage network. Also, once I got creative items, I finally made that drawer to duplicate causality collapsers, and I started on trying to get primordial pearls over here. I probably should have built this at the lowest elevation possible, but basically you just flood a chunk with a bunch of flux, and you want to do it away from your base because it can spawn chains and stuff. And then you do that by throwing something like one of these collectors into a crucible, and then shift right clicking it to send all of it into the atmosphere, and you do that until you get roughly 30,000 flux in one chunk. And then you want to stabilize them by having just a stabilizer in the chunk, and then throw causality collapsers at them until you get primordial pearls. And that won't actually unlock a whole lot until you get the Crimson Cult to spawn, which was actually really difficult. I built this with infinite bath salts into an arcane spa for infinite purifying fluid, and then also an infinite sanitizing soap drawer to clean off the to clean off the warp that I got from closing too many of those while standing near them, which is a bad idea. And then the last thing I did in this pack before starting this recording was actually trying to get the Crimson Cult to spawn. It was rather difficult, and what I eventually did was I got an Eldritch Guardian to spawn with a warp event. I captured it and spawned it with a mob duplicator into here, so there's just a bunch of them in a line here. And then I just stood where they thought they could see me, which was like right here. And let them try to fire at me. And when they fire at you, or when they try to fire at you, there's like a 33% chance that they shriek instead, which gives you temporary warp and no other kind of warp. And temporary warp is, of course, the easiest to clean off. Unfortunately, it caps at 500, but the fact that you keep getting warp supposedly added on will keep your warp counter up at like 512, which is needed for warp events to be successful. And then I AFK'd that for like 2 hours while watching TV and finally got a Crimson Portal to spawn. I grabbed it in one of those safari nets and duplicated it using this range upgrade to get a few more that I just but anyways, the reason I did all of this was because you have to scan a Crimson Cult member and then get the book from them. This one, the Crimson Rights, and you have to turn it in this research here in order to get this, which you need to, to unlock this tab, and then you scan the void seeds to learn how to make void metal, and then you can make the void seer's pearl using this recipe. Alternatively, you can just buy it and alternatively you could just buy it, but you need at least one primordial pearl to make the greater foci for this quest. By the way, the beacon is the best research aid and pretty much the only one worth using. The basic ones, which are like most of these except the bookshelf, just increase the odds of those cards appearing, but the beacon's oral influence and the bookshelves study and notation cards are exclusive to aids. I did a lot of code digging for Thumbcraft. Exclusive to research aids. And the beacon gives you +2 influence, a bonus draw, and a additional category will receive the full bonus on completion. Because apparently, whatever doesn't get the full bonus gets a 66%. Gets a like 1/3 of its progress chopped off when you complete a research. So anyways, that was the final thing I did in this world. But before that, I finished up Britannia by making this arena for the Guardian of Gaia. There he is. I made this arena for the Guardian of Gaia. It's very cheesy. It's built entirely out of mob filters, which will drop all of the things that it spawns through the floor. And then everything, it's right on top of my will setup, which is, I followed a tutorial online. It's just using a bunch of rituals to harvest these mobs' life force to build crystals. To build up these, and then they're automatically harvested by like a fragmented crystal ritual or something to pop off into the air, picked up by the absorption hopper and put into this drawer controller system. Although I did eventually just create a drawer of the basic demon will. But anyways, those entity conveyors in the ceiling, just make sure it doesn't land on this bit, and then they'll fall into one of these, and then fall through this ceiling into that chamber and get killed by the ritual eventually. And then I used the Kyokoku to kill the Gaia, and let's do a demonstration or two of what that looks like because it's very funny. This has max upgrades on it for combat, basically. And Vorpal is the real MVP. because it can do that and just crit finish off the Gaia. Normally there'd be the phase where it flies up and spawns a bunch of mobs, which is why this floor is like this, because I just don't want to deal with those. And if that rarely happens, I can just strafe around until it comes back down and finish it off. But anyways, after I built all that, I eventually built this for energy storage, but then I ended up moving it to put the TARDIS underneath it, which I built right before finishing the Crimson Cult stuff. I built this without the blueprint, just by looking at it in JEI, like this. And I also built it with the blueprint in another world. But anyways, the only way to get the blueprint is to buy it from the shop, and it doesn't actually need the blueprint to run, so I just didn't buy it. But anyways, I built all of this, and the item list for it, which you can see here, is ridiculous. Specifically, the 1951 machine casings are prohibitively expensive unless you have proper fusion crafting automation and a lot of time. Sorry, that wasn't that wasn't next. What was next was a bunch of machines that I automated for refined storage. The first one was this red matter furnace, which is powered by this antimatter relay and this energy collector. It'll furnace a lot of items at once that go into this interface. The next thing was a mechanical user onto a block of coal for silk-covered redstone, a slice and splice using a dark matter axe, and premium shears for an axe and shears that I never have to replace. The Hellfire Forge, the sag mill, and the compactor to make a few plates. And then I eventually did IC2 using this setup. I power it primarily with MFSUs with flux points on them, because although the IC2 machines won't accept flux network power directly, the MFSUs will. And then we just have 4 MFSUs powering glass fiber cables to power most of these IC2 machines, and then the Tech Reborn machines you actually want to keep separate, even though it's basically IC2 remake, because you can only put a limited number of upgrades into these, and so the only one worth using is the overclocker upgrade, which means that you can't transformer upgrade the machines to make them accept a high voltage like that. So each of these is on the low tier, which means that the max they'll accept is 32 EU per tick anyways, so I just made a bunch of radioisotope thermoelectric generators and put a bunch of these pellets of RTG fuel that I got, again, for free, just from EMC. And the final machine is the industrial grinder, which is this multi-block. It is a medium tier machine, so it accepts slightly more from this adjustable SU of 128 EU per tick. And then these are all of the recipes that I ended up needing to automate. And I finally got to, well, the matter fabricator down there makes you matter liquid, which you then duplicate using the creative tank for some crusts. And then you also want to run a mass fabricator to make the IC2 matter pellets, these guys, because if you make them from liquid, it requires just way more time. Even though the mass fabricator says you probably want the matter fabricator instead. And then you also want a Tech Reborn Matter Fabricator, which was right here. I removed it because it uses too much power. Similarly fed with scrap to make Tech Reborn UU Matter. And those can be combined in the assembling machine, which is this one, for U Matter, which is the final thing we needed. So I think I've discussed everything that I built here. Oh, right. For this machine, I built a Veil of Evil ritual, and the range is like disgustingly wide on it. It's like 31 blocks, or something. So I made sure there's nothing around it, and then at the very top of its range, like basically this entire room is just the top of its range, is where I put the dark room for that. So that things like bats and, well, basically bats can spawn in there because it needs variety of mobs. And there's no, like, real quick, easy way to spawn a variety of animal mobs in this pack, because we don't have that ritual. But anyways, then I built the TARDIS. The TARDIS auto outputs power to the Draconic Energy Core because it's close enough. The range is like 16 blocks from this to any right-clickable block in this energy core. So it basically has to be directly above or in front of the TARDIS. And then I ended up automating it by remote networking the refined storage. This crafter knows how to make no matter with lava, U matter, and green matter, and then no U matter with U matter, no matter, and more lava. The lava is collected in the refined storage system with this bit, a black hole tank, just constantly getting lava buckets from an EMC link, and then when it empties the buckets, they get pushed back into the EMC link, and then that has a external storage on it that's whitelisted to lava only. And this here is my pure daisy automation, and these are my V crystals and pure earth automation, which I didn't really end up using much, but I automated it anyways, because why not? The first thing that I built for IC2 was actually the fluid solid canning machine, making IC2 coolant, which is needed to make overclocker upgrades. And you, to make it fast enough, you'll want either translocators or test locators with max upgrades from an EMC link, fueling it with lapis lazuli dust, just so it'll keep up. And then I basically let the refined storage system hold it all in this block, which is why it's not currently making any. Oh, and it also goes out to these things. Oh, and then I eventually use fluid lasers for all of the fluid transport because it's the only way to make it go fast enough. And yeah, the sink is also supplying infinite water to the refined storage system. And this is the system that fills buckets with IC2 coolant to actually make the coolant. It's just a crafter onto a pressurized fluid tank. It'll put the liquid and a bucket in there. The tank will fill the bucket, and then the bucket will get pulled out by that. Oh, also, actually, the most efficient way to get wither skeleton skulls is a wither skeleton data model from deep mob learning, making pristine wither skeleton matter, because that can be put into a loot fabricator for 18 wither skeleton skulls each, which is insane. And besides the dragon, which can make dragon's breath, that's basically the only thing that you need deep mob learning for on the middle map. But anyways, I think I've covered most everything. And everything is finally set up for the final quests, which I will do now. So, first of all, I got a final star and all of the other quests completed and the UU matter. Now I'm going to request a no matter from the system. Sorry, I never finished the explanation of the TARDIS automation. This crafter supplies the lava and materials to a black hole controller with a tank and enough black hole units to contain all those items. The items are sent to this item input, and then this phantom face reflects that item input and has a comparator to say whether there are any items in the input. Because if not, we're free to use the TARDIS for power generation. But if there are any, then that signal turns on, which changes the behavior of these conduits to pull from this phantom liquid face, which is connected to the black hole controller, to put the lava into the fluid input hatch, which I will now demonstrate with the production of the No You Matter. And it's crafting now. So, while we wait for that, we are going to finish a few other crafts. First of all, we have one end level infusion craft to do here, using a blank greater focus and all of these to make a pig spawning. Oh, and this is my automation setup. The Essentia buffers just push Essentia along into void jars, one for each Essentia type. And this would be enough for all of the Essentia types in the mod, but we didn't actually need all of them. And then just a 3 Lambic smeltery with 2 auxiliary slurry pumps and the rest bellows. And here's all the items with like pure-ish, I mean with the most pure Thumbcraft aspects I could get. For easy just EMC making into here. Anyways, that'll take a while, so we're gonna move on to this. This is the end level Britannia one, and it should just be a matter of putting clay matter onto here, and then grabbing a living rock. Once that's eventually full, and it's a good thing that I made 4 Gaia spreaders, because it looks like the mana is going to take a while for that. But anyways, this one, the infusion is incredibly stable, so there's no reason we can't just leave it crafting. The next one is a bunch of XP levels for which you basically have to create a fluid tank XP and then fluid laser it into an experience obelisk, at which point you can just do this to grab 21,000 XP levels and turn them in here. Oh. Apparently it doesn't know what to do with that large of a number. But it does want the equivalent amount of XP that would be 1508 levels, which is why we're getting less than we quote unquote paid for here. Just doesn't know what to do with such a large number. And sadly, that can't be automated as far as I know. Don't know. Right. And then I'll give it some coins in the sheep trophy. And then we also want a ludicrous amount of coins, for which we should just automate the repeatable liquid quests using creative fluids. So one thing is that we can take the task screen and put it right here. A life essence. And that'll let us infinitely turn that in pretty much as fast as we can click. And that should get us enough coins to turn this in eventually. Okay. And then we also need a spawn cow egg, which is made using the fusion control computer. Over here. This one. I have 4 flux points powering it from the sides and a flux plug to take any energy that it might produce. And then a crafter on top. I appear to have never actually programmed the cow egg recipes, so let's program that now, sorry. Processing. These. And that. And the output works via this phantom face here. Just pulls out into a interface. So we should now be able to request that cow egg. Of course, it doesn't know how to make clay matter, so let's give it one. Oh, right. It instantly got eaten. We actually have to teach it to the system. For simplicity, just add it to here. Right. And then that consumed a large amount of upfront energy, and then it'll take 12k EU per tick while this mission is running, which is why we needed at least a size 7, which is luckily the same amount of coils as a size 6. So we might need to come back here and speed that up with a time in a bottle later, but whatever. Here we have our spawn pig egg. I have faith that one day those will stop ticking. Is this ready yet? Yeah, okay. So we finally just throw a living rock on there and then grab my wand. We get all the runes back, which we'll just send into the enemy system where I originally got them from just farming the Gaia Guardian. And we'll get a polar bear egg. Then we also have the blaze spawn egg. Which I did teach to the enemy system. Or, sorry, the refined storage system. This is what I was talking about earlier. And unfortunately, my system doesn't work correctly with the priority for some reason. And apparently also... Wait, what? Did I not set the number of... Oh, no, okay. So, right, that's what happens. Those went into there first, so they didn't get sent. That'll take a while. And it registered the craft complete, and there should be a blaze egg in the system. Then when I thought I did the cow, oh, the cow was the fusion controller, right? Is that done yet? It sure is. It's right here. And then we'll just need a rabbit egg, which is a clay matter into the blood altar, and a squid egg, which is the power. Using this premium power cell, remote, and clay matter. I think that's probably going to be in a reasonable amount of time. If not, I'd probably just need to give it more power. And then we just slap this in here. And surprisingly, we actually don't have enough displacement runes. I might have wanted to go with capacity instead. Here we go. I don't know whether those replacements are actually necessary or not, but I don't care. Rabbit egg. And our rabbit trophy. Put that exchanger away. Frick, why didn't I put, why didn't I manage to put those speed runes away? They go over there. And then the item, the no U matter that was produced by the TARDIS generator should go to this item output and then go to the interface and get picked up by the RS system. It should already be waiting for us. There. Which means that this here is the final quest, and so I will speed it up a little bit with my time as a local. Okay, it does look like the conduits might be a bit of a bottleneck, so let's add some flux points. This one is west. Please stand west. Which would make this north. This south. No, east. This south. Now when we speed this up, they okay, they still can't keep up. What if I speed these up? What if I speed these up? Do have power to give it. Oh, okay, it finally finished. All right. And then that got output into here. And that's all of these quests. And now we just need to visit Dimension X, which we can do by getting some Sky Odyssey portal points. I thought they were called that at least. Sky Adventure, Portal, Odyssey Portal Farms. We're gonna have to add the reference trade system. Oh, anyways, the Born Storage is also nice because it has this IO port that I put external storage on insert only for patterns. So any pattern that I just let into the pattern, into the reference storage system, will just go into there. So for example, this just go into there. And then we just need to chisel a bunch of marble. Make sure we have the block of ender pearl. Where's the EMC-able marble, damn you? The one called Raw. So just grab like 4 stacks of that and an I chisel. We need this one. Chisel all. And we just put these into the system. And it does take a little bit for these to get into the system, but very long usually. I don't call quite how many we needed those. We'll just make 16. I think it's like this. Right, I admittedly didn't do a ton of research on this bit. Does this need to, I mean, do these need to go in a specific order? FTB Odyssey World. Ah, okay. So I didn't quite make the portal correctly. Oh, frick. The good thing I put those into item frames. So some of them may have ended up in here. They did not. So which trophies do I have? I'm missing one. Donkey? It's donkey. Yes. And then we'll put this somewhere we actually have room for it, like right here. Interesting how it just deleted the dirt, but okay. Ah, and now we don't have to, because the portal is correct, we don't have to shift right click these on here. We can just right click and they are animated. And there we go. Oh, great, we spawned underwater. Of course this would be what my spawn is. Why not? Oh, I mean, at least we have an ocean monument. And then we'll just mark this as dimension X. And that gives you the Tome of Knowledge for people who are playing the middle, and as you can see on the left, that is all of the quests completed. So, time for a pack review, I guess. The pack was neat. I think the exploit, I mean, yeah, I think the Akashic Tome thing really is an exploit that should have been patched, if only for the sake of the middle start, because it does take a bit of the puzzle out of it. Let me see if I can figure out what the other one EMC item that you can get. Oh, right. Low covalence dust is also one EMC, and you can turn it in for a few points. But anyways, you could use those coins to then buy something EMCable, or like a sapling and dirt, and then start EMC generation that way. Anyways, the pack was neat. I did like the EMC focus on all of it. ICT was annoying as always, and Thaumcraft took a really long time to get the right spawn. I wish they'd put like the outer or the Crimson Portal spawn egg, this one, as a quest reward or a buyable in the shop. Although a quest reward would have been better because you can't really properly do Thaumcraft without it. Yeah, I didn't use a single Beast Coin miner, and I didn't use any bot items except for the things that I bought this episode and things. Right. Also, I should mention that the way I started Thaumcraft was with these crystals. You can grab these and then break them for the Vis crystals to start off with. So you start Thaumcraft. Anyways, this has been Minecraft Junior Sky Odyssey. The middle map signing off. See y'all next time. Bye bye. The pack was fun, but I don't blame Set for not taking it on with me. It is a bit old at this point, and there are just a slight few issues. But anyways, quality pack from FTB overall, and a pretty fun time, in my opinion. Anyways, bye bye.